Ida.
Okay,
Ida,
you're on camera.
Ida and Charles Woodhead, was it? I
I
think
don't
so.
remember his name.
Anyway, they were distant relatives of Mother who lived in California and visited us in Fort McKinley in the Philippines on their way over to Tokyo to join their daughter who had gone over previously with a friend. And so after their visit, they left, and we heard about this terrific earthquake in Japan, and I think it was just around, it must have been
1923.
It was 23, and it was either in August or September, because it was just shortly before we returned.
It must have been in August, because I was on the China Arrow out in that. I made one trip after I got my license. I made one trip on the China Arrow out to China and Japan. And I was back in Berkeley in time to start school. And, I was late September when I started school. I was late starting. And so you all came back from the Philippines. Go on with your story.
Well, the first thing we did when we heard about this earthquake and knew where it was to get down into Manila where they were posting survivors' names. And we didn't find their names on the survivor list because they couldn't possibly get all of them, of the ones who were traveling. But we heard from them, believe me, when they returned to California, when we finally went back and visited them on our return trip. And it seemed that they arrived in Tokyo just before the earthquake hit. Charlene, their daughter, had just seen her friend off on the boat and had come back to the hotel and was just getting comfortable, removing her outer clothing and getting comfortable and sitting down to write letters when and her parents had gone down to the dock to pick up some apparel that they had left in storage there on the boat, and were returning when the earthquake hit, and the parents saw these tremendous crevices opening up in front of them and behind them, but they managed to get back to where they could see where the hotel should have been looming up in the air, and it wasn't there. But by the time they got closer, they found that it was down at ground level. It had practically gone down to through the basement area. Charlene had the presence of mind to run to there had been predictions of earthquakes, and was told to run to a doorway, any strong structure like a doorway, if it did. And she did, and a room boy was running up and down the corridor in hysterics, and she grabbed a hold of his arm or something and pulled him into the doorway just as it collapsed and went down to the basement area. Well, he gave up, and she wasn't about to give up. By the time the smoke or the dust settled, she saw a little glimmer of light, and she worked her way through the rubble toward it, and she got out. She got out, stepped out onto a sidewalk, and her parents were there, and she sent somebody back in to get the room boy because she said he was not about to, he had given up hope of getting out. Well, they came back with a stack of photographs, a good inch thick, of what had happened and what they saw, pictures they took of this earthquake and the results of it. And some of the worst pictures you could ever imagine seeing in your life were the ones in buildings who ran out into the courtyard, and the pictures were heaps of dead bodies, and also where they were jammed in so tight that the bodies were just standing up, bracing each other up in an upright position. And the ones who tried to escape in the water swam out, and the boats that were damaged. Oil covered the water, which caught fire, and the ones who tried to escape by water were burned to death. So it was a horrible thing. We never did find out much about the number of people, but I think that if you look up in the history books, you'll read about the Japanese earthquake of 1923.
Be there.
And we were very happy to know that our relatives who went through it came out of it without any scars.
Thank God for that. Well, this is
We had sailed from, I think it was Nagasaki, one of the Japanese ports, just 2 or 3 days before the earthquake. So we weren't very far offshore, off the coast when it happened. They talked about us turning around, going back, to lend any assistance that we might be able to, and then apparently they told the captain didn't need to turn around and go back. So we went on back to San Francisco. And that's all I remember about the Japanese earthquake. I wasn't there.
certainly
And I never saw those pictures that you're talking about.
Well, they were with the
Woodheads?
Woodheads. They're the ones who had collected them and taken them. But they had the stack of pictures that they had taken. And also Charlene. Charlene had quite a record of it. Charlene eventually married a young lieutenant he was when we were living on Corregidor. I can't recall his name at the moment. But the strange thing is that she was never in the Philippines, but he was based in the California area near where she lived. And how they got together, I'll never know, but this young man who I'm referring to dated Marion, our sister, several times while we were living on Corregidor.
Yeah.
And Charlene ended up by marrying him back in the States, never knowing that he had ever
Jean
known us.
Jean started dating Marion.
Yeah. That was after that, though.
Yeah.
After the last talk you were giving, Mom, about your camping trip, you said that you wanted to add a little
Yes.
a little postscript to that.
The little postscript I'd like to add to that is that there has never been and never could be any kind of a summer vacation to equal the joys and happiness that my father and I had
And problems.
spent together, and problems, but that was all part of it.
They came in riding on rims, no tires.
She told all
Oh, did
about
she?
that.
Oh, she told
Yes,
about it.
That was a wonderful story.
Yeah.
That we waited until nightfall so that we could get in on all the back streets of El Paso. We were so embarrassed to be coming in on rims.
I think
Then
that's
it wasn't
so
too
fun.
much later that she went to college, was it? To Northwestern? Wasn't it the next year or something?
I've been to Northwestern.
You had been
Before
to
and back,
Northwestern?
yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
And back again to El Paso Junior College.
I was radio operating on the Pacific when you were in Northwestern. Because I was making all of $60 a month. Finally, I was making $90 a month, and I was sending most all of it home. And Dad used it to help pay your way in Northwestern.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And Mother went to, her mother opened a kindergarten to help pay my way to Northwestern. And I ended up by coming back, and I got so homesick I couldn't stay
Yeah.
after the first term, and came back and went to El Paso Junior College, where I graduated, which later became a western branch of the University of Texas, I thought.
Which school?
El Paso Junior College.
Oh, I don't know.
They had a branch of the University University of Texas, which was, I think, A&M.
Well, that
In El
was,
Paso.
that was the School of Mines.
The School of Mines was in El Paso.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it now is, UTEP,
What is that?
UTEP, University of Texas, El Paso.
Yeah, that became, that's
That's
what
what it's
became
called
a
now.
branch, western branch of the University of Texas.
Yeah, School of Mines.
And I think the junior college folded up or went in with that school,
Maybe.
consolidated eventually, so I heard.
I gotta go look at this ice maker.
I hear something crashing
It's
in
dropping,
there.
and I wanna see when it's through dropping it, if it pours water down it.
All right.